It was a beautiful, large, well-maintained house with a typical American-style lawn in the town of Jericho, New York. Nothing special, except for the fact that for 30 years, the building had kept a terrifying secret. Interestingly, the house had changed hands 4 times, and it was only the fifth buyer who wanted to remove the strange old barrel from the basement. The man was planning to do a major renovation and literally demanded that the real estate seller clear all the rooms, including the basement. This was when the terrifying story of a young, ambitious immigrant from El Salvador, Reina Angelica Marroquin, began to unfold, or rather, to be revealed to the world. So, the old owner of the house, who had lived there for the last 9 years, was trying to get rid of the strange barrel in the basement, which he had never paid attention to. Unable to manage it on his own because it was too heavy, he called workers. They quickly pulled the barrel out and, out of curiosity, opened it. What the men saw next made them shudder. When they opened the lid, they were hit with a nauseating smell. But that wasn't all. A mummified female hand and high-heeled shoes were sticking out of the surface. All of this was covered in a strange granular material of black and white colors and coated with a sticky, greenish chemical liquid. The police were immediately called to the scene. The current owner of the house was the first to be questioned. However, he insisted that the barrel had already been in the basement when he bought the property. It hadn't been in the way, so it had remained there, untouched, for all 9 years. The old owner did not raise any suspicion with the police. It was clear that he himself was shocked. He had lived in the house with the remains for so many years. The horrifying discovery was sent for examination, but experts did not hope to find the murderer's fingerprints. They immediately began studying the contents. The plastic beads in the barrel caught the specialists' attention. They had to scoop them out for a long time to get to the mummified body. Once the mummy was removed and examined, experts made an official statement. It was a woman aged 25 to 30, of short stature, with shoulder-length black hair. She was fully dressed, in a cardigan, and a coat made of artificial leopard skin that reached her waist. Inside the barrel, her body was positioned in the fetal position, and it was clear that after 30 years it had shriveled significantly. According to the results of the medical examination, it was established that the woman had died from multiple blows to the head. But the most tragic part was that the woman was approximately 7 to 8 months pregnant. This meant that not 1, but 2 lives had been lost. All the police knew was that the victim was a Latin American woman, clearly an immigrant. In addition, a heavily damaged notebook was found in the barrel, which was immediately sent for examination. However, it was clear that restoring it would take more than a day. The investigation began with studying the pedigree of the house, which had been built in 1956. It had had 4 owners. All of them were decent, large families without any legal issues. It was hard to believe that any of them would have kept a barrel with remains in their house. The investigator leading the case then decided to thoroughly examine the barrel itself, which had numerous inscriptions, including the manufacturer's name. Fortunately, the rim factory, where these barrels had been made, still existed, and the staff was able to shed the first light on the case. It turned out that all barrels had their own markings because they were usually used to store toxic substances. The investigator also found out that this particular barrel was manufactured in 1963. The green sticker indicated the brand of the chemical company that purchased such barrels. The investigation then revealed that in 1970, this chemical company had been sold. The new owners provided crucial information. They revealed that the green paint found in the barrel was no longer produced after 1970, and the pellets are used for molding. They are melted down to create various plastic items, such as artificial flowers. This small detail would later play a major role in the investigation. Now, the investigation knew for sure that the woman ended up in the barrel between 1963 and 1970. Most likely, someone who worked at a chemical plant was involved in the case. But finding and questioning every worker after 30 years was an impossible task. A notebook found in the tank came to the rescue. With the help of modern technology, they were able to decode the information, which ultimately revealed the names of the murderer and the victim, as well as the reasons why the young, beautiful woman ended up locked in the barrel for 30 years. On the very first page, the investigator found numbers starting with the letter A. Previously, such social security numbers were assigned to Latin American immigrants. All that was left was to check this theory, and it was confirmed. At the Foreign Registration Department, the investigator obtained comprehensive information. The woman in the barrel was finally identified as Reina Angelica Marroquin. Reina Angelica was indeed an immigrant from El Salvador. She arrived in Miami in 1966 and moved to New York the following year. The young woman lived in the Jeanne d'Arc Catholic residence for women, managed by nuns. In her free time, she attended free programs to improve her English and professional skills. She was eager to become a useful member of American society. However, Reina mysteriously disappeared in 1969. At the same time, as the investigation revealed, there was one woman who, 30 years ago, tried to draw the police's attention to the disappearance of the Latin American woman, and if her report had been taken seriously, perhaps the murderer would have already been punished long ago. On the pages of the notebook, the name and phone number of someone named Chloe were found. The investigators were able to locate the woman and bring her in for questioning. It turned out that she had worked as a volunteer at the Jeanne d'Arc women's residence. That's where she became friends with Reina. Chloe revealed that once, in early 1969, Reina called her in desperation. The young woman said she had made a big mistake. She had had an affair with a man named Howard and was now pregnant by him. And now Howard was threatening her with harm. Reina was terrified. According to Chloe, Reina asked her to come to the house in New Jersey where Howard had put her up, and Chloe went. The front door was wide open, and there was warm food on the table as if Reina had just stepped out for a moment. Chloe waited for her friend for an entire hour, but she never showed up. When she reported her suspicions to the police, they told her that only family members could file a missing person report. Experts were able to decipher several names, including Howard Elkins. For the investigators, this was incredible news. The thing was, Elkins was not only the first owner of the house where the barrel had been found, but he was also Reina's former employer. 30 years ago, Reina had worked for Howard in his flower shop in New York, where she sold, among other things, plastic flowers. These were exactly the items for which the chemical pellets found in the barrel were needed. After selling the house in 1972, Howard, his wife, and children moved to Florida and lived there until 1999, when the police showed up to ask them about the young woman Reina Angelica Marroquin. Howard Elkins turned out to be quite talkative. He shared a lot about his former house and life in New York, but completely denied any involvement in the young woman's fate. Howard was asked to cooperate with the investigation, but he refused and claimed that he knew nothing about the barrel found in the basement of his old house. Then he was asked to provide his DNA to compare with the DNA of the fetus, but the man refused. This was his last interrogation. The next day, on September 10, 1999, he was found on the back seat of a neighbor's car. Howard had shot himself. DNA tests subsequently taken from Elkins confirmed that Howard was indeed the father of the fetus. The investigation had no more doubts about who was guilty. The investigation showed that Reina had informed Howard's wife of her pregnancy shortly before her disappearance, but Elkins did not know about it, and the spouse did not tell her husband about the call from his mistress. Probably, Reina threatened the man that she would tell his wife about the future child. This threatened divorce and large financial losses, and Howard Elkins found a way to avoid problems. He lived to be 71 years old, effectively evading justice for the crime he committed. Judith Abbin, who, together with her husband Arthur, bought a house in Jericho from Mr. Elkins and his wife Ruth in 1972, owned it for 12 years without knowing who was in the basement. "They seemed like such a wonderful family," she said of the former owners. And that concludes our coverage of this tragic story. If you found this video informative or thought-provoking, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more updates on cases like these. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Feel free to share this video with your friends and give it a thumbs up if you found it valuable. Thank you for watching.